From the high plains of the Midwest, I bid you good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever your time zone might be. My nod to the late and great Art Bell. I'm Keith Sharp.
And I'm G. Dressel.
And we welcome you to Life After Life, a paranormal webcast where we talk about the paranormal, UFOs, or the unexplained. And the biggest question of them all, what happens when we die? Stay tuned. Good evening, everybody. I'm Keith Sharp. Along with me, my partner in crime, Garrett Dressel. And this is episode 1 of Life After Life. And Garrett, we've got an awesome show tonight. We have the lovely Miss Cathy Nance on tonight. Cathy Nance is the founder and case manager of Woodlands Paranormal. She has used her gifts as the case manager of Oklahoma Paranormal Research and Investigation, Society of the Haunted, and then Woodlands Paranormal, where she counsels the group's clients and manages the group. Cathy grew up in the church and found some explanations through priests and her religious studies. She took some classes in parapsychology, became even more devout in her church and spirituality. Her work in the paranormal has led her to be featured on Animals Planet television show, The Haunted, as well as My Ghost Story on the Biography channel, Ghost and Legends of Oklahoma on Ghost Tales Television Network, and multiple other film projects. Cathy is the owner and photographer of Cathy Nance Studios, located in Old Town Spring, Texas. Photography is one of the mediums she uses to create art for her clients, and her art and photography have been displayed in various galleries. Hey, Cathy, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thanks for being on the program. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Well, Cathy, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and about your group that you founded, the Woodlands Paranormal Group?
I am an artist, and I'm an intuitive. I've been investigating the paranormal forever, professionally since 2007. And there was many years where it was 7 days a week that I was either listening to audio, watching video, going through photos, and talking to clients on the phone. And we were investigating 3-4 times a week for a really long time. Yeah. So we slowed down to like twice a week. So Fridays and Saturdays, because that was when everybody had time available. And I only went out during the week if it was like an emergency and I needed to go see somebody to do an intake or something.
Like you did when you came to my house that one time?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and we still do that. So it just depends on the situation. I'm not dedicating 7 days a week to it now.
Sure.
So I've backed off on it a little bit. So I've got a little bit more free time for other projects like photography and art.
So what do you like better, photography or paranormal?
That's a tough question.
Well, they're all kind of like coming from the same place, I think, because it's living spirits versus spirits that have already passed.
Sure.
And I'm helping clients, whether that I'm taking their pictures or I'm talking to them about their spiritual problems. So I kind of like see them the same. The paranormal is fun, though, because it's all fringe stuff that a lot of people are like scared of.
Right.
And
so you've had several NDEs, like I think you said by the time you were 3. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I had 3 near-death experiences, and one of them was the one that was the biggest. But what led to them in the first place was I overdosed. I was electrocuted one time, and the time that that I can talk to you about is the time that I drowned. And so I'm in the pool. I am 3 years old, and I didn't know not to take off my little floaty device, and I sunk and did not know how to swim. And all I remember is being at the bottom of the pool, and everything got dark, and then I saw twinkling lights, and I saw lights. And at the end of the light, it looked like there were dark figures moving around. And I didn't know if I should be afraid or what I should feel. I had no thought one way or the other. And then I saw something that was dark moving towards me. And as the dark figure got almost up to me, I saw that it was my mom, and she got me out of the pool. But,
that's incredible.
Yep. So that was the moment really that started a lifelong thing of I have to sleep on my stomach. I have to bury my ears so that I block sound out. And it's like I have to shut the world off. Otherwise, I'm hearing things, seeing things, feeling things all the time. I have a lot of night terrors. It feels like I'm being woken up or pulled out of bed or yanked on. That happens to me all the time. I mean, it comes in waves, or like maybe it'll happen for a year or two, and then all of a sudden it'll stop, and I'm in a slow phase right now, which is great.
So do you think you're being spiritually attacked, or do you think these are just legitimate nightmares?
I think that it's a little bit of both. I do think that I've been spiritually attacked numerous times, and it's really hard. Like if you're sound asleep, it's hard to figure if you've been attacked or not. So sometimes I run the audio recorder when I'm sleeping, just to run it for peace of mind. That way I know that if I have something happen, I can replay it and listen and hear if I can, if I can catch any EVPs, if there was anything weird sounding around the time frame that I, started screaming to wake myself awake,
Right.
But
Wow.
but yes, I do believe that I've definitely been attacked. And my husband has told me that he has been around when there's been things happen where he feels like I've been attacked.
Wow.
Or he's been attacked.
So how did your family accept, like when you went into the paranormal, I guess you did that at a young age. I mean, so let's like your parents, how did they feel about that?
Well,
or did they believe
my
you?
parents did, I think that they did and they didn't. I think that they thought that I was mostly having nightmares.
Right.
And they did take me to the doctor for it because I did it all the time. And then I just learned to not really talk about it. And the only way that I can prevent it is it's like I have to turn the whole world off by sleeping on my stomach and burying my head, so that I don't hear anything. And those earbud things that you put into your ears, they don't work for me. It bothers me more than just trying to pile a bunch of planks on my head.
Gotcha.
So I bury myself, and I'm able to relax and sleep. And I also go through periods of time where I have insomnia, and I'm going through an insomnia phase right now.
Wow.
And where I'm maybe getting 3 hours at the most a night. And although I don't really have anything around me, it's just I can't shut my head off at all now.
Do you feel like you're on guard?
Yeah.
Do you think that has anything to do with it?
Yeah. Sometimes I feel that way.
So how's your current family? I mean, when you first started into the paranormal, like your kids and everything, how'd they accept that? Did they think mom was nuts, or what did they think?
Well, everybody was actually, my son was the one that really got me into doing it, because he had been watching some of the ghost shows on TV, and there was an event that he wanted to do, and we were going to go do it. I was going to take him to it, and then I sent an email, and the next thing I got invited for an interview, and I went on this interview, and while I was at the interview, I was invited to go ghost hunting with them right then and there on the spot.
Oh my
That
God.
is awesome.
So I called my husband, and I'm like, I got invited to go, and he's like, go, and we drove almost to Arkansas to go on this investigation.
Oh, wow.
And it was amazing. It was amazing. And there was some other people on this investigation that I guess that they had interviewed a couple of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was the normal person on the investigation. I'll just say that.
And was that your first time in kind of like an organized setting to investigate?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. It was my first organized setting experience.
And you enjoyed it?
Oh, yeah. We went to, I don't remember the name of the place, but it was a place that had a hanging tree that the famous judge in Arkansas would come over and hang people in the area. There was a post office, a school, several houses, and we had unfiltered access to everything. And we were going through this house that nobody had lived in for 40 years. And it was the guy that owned the property came out, and he had a light on his head, because there's no electricity or anything out there.
Right.
And he just was talking about the history, and I love history. And so as he's talking about all this history, I've got goosebumps. And it's a combination of everything. It's like interest in the paranormal, interest on if there is life after death, interest in history, the fact that we had unfiltered access to this property, and I was with a group of people, and the group of people that I was with were really neat. We had an anthropologist, and we had police officers, and just everybody was educated, and it was just an amazing experience, and it immediately hooked me.
That sounds fun.
Wow.
So did you guys catch anything that night?
Yeah, we got some EVPs. It was kind of a little bit different because they had other people with them that night.
Mm-hmm.
There was a reporter, and there was a girl that was wearing flip-flops, and we were out in an area where there's spurs and, brush, and we were kind of like having to help her through this whole area. One of the new people that had been interviewed was acting like she had had a heart attack and was bent over in pain. And my original career in life is nursing. So
right.
I'm like looking at this girl, and I'm trying to assess her for her pain level and what was going on. And she was trying to discount all of my questions, saying that it wasn't medical, it was spiritual. Well, if she was in pain like that, how would she know if it was spiritual versus, real?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I thought, oh, well, maybe she's just doing all of this to try to get onto this team or whatever. I had no idea what the purpose was that she was doing it, but it struck me as being very odd. And that's what I mean by I was like the only normal person of the people that they had interviewed that day.
God.
Because my mind is, we're having a heart attack or something,
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out how to save her life, and she's telling me it's like she was being attacked by a spirit who was stabbing her with a spiritual knife,
Yeah.
Wow.
But I bet you run into a lot of that, don't you? I mean, there's those people who are just over-exaggerate everything, and they want to be a center of attention for something like that. I bet you see that a lot.
Absolutely, especially people claiming to have, psychic ability
right.
or mediumship ability, and so.
What do you think the percentage is of like psychics that are for real and mediums that are for real?
That's hard, and I'll just say that it's hard for me to say that because what I actually believe is that every single person has abilities.
Right.
And if you look up, psychic abilities and you study it for a little bit, you'll see that there's many forms of psychic abilities. And so when you ask somebody if they're psychic, most of the time in the ghost world, it's do they have any mediumship abilities where they're able to where something can speak to them and they understand it and they're able to speak back.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people do not have medium abilities, but they'll claim to be a medium, or they'll claim to be, in their mind, what they think is a psychic, but it's really not, and it's more like an attention thing. But you can always check those people,
Right.
Always check them. So at the time, the group that I was in, which was OKPRI, our leader was psychic.
Yes.
And so I would set up investigations that she had absolutely no idea what they were.
Mm-hmm.
She had not spoke with the people. They hadn't emailed. There was nothing. And we would come out, and she would go in, and she would walk through the property, and she would pick up what she would pick up. And we had already done research on the property, so we already had some background information, so we knew kind of what we were walking into.
Right.
And then we could try to go back after she would point other things out. We would go to the library. There's all kinds of places where you could dig through data to try to find if what she said was accurate. And we did that a lot. When I was in OKPRI, that was our main thing was what we found and compared it to what she found. And we would come up with what we thought was there and
that's neat.
Work out solutions.
Yeah, I remember when you guys came over, she guessed the date of a person that had passed away that Pam was associated with. And she just had it kind of backwards, but then I told her and she goes, oh, okay. And then she made sense of the date. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you've done so many investigations. So have you had a spirit ever follow you home? And if you did, were you able to get rid of it?
Yes. So I've had that happen many times. And it's not just people in the paranormal that have spirits follow them.
Right.
I think people that work in hospitals, anywhere that there's death, people will have things attached to them and follow them home. And spirits are free. Not every spirit is attached to a particular location.
Right. So
this
go ahead. I'm sorry.
this particular time, I can tell you about one time that was kind of neat. So, well, actually, let me just say that sometimes they'll come around me and I'll notice that they're there for like a couple of hours. I'll notice activity and then it stops.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times it might be a whole month or so of activity. And this one particular time that, it wasn't scary or anything, but whatever it was that was in my house found three things that I needed in my life, like my keys, my notebook that I took notes in for the paranormal, and I don't remember what the other object was. It was some like makeup of some type. And I didn't have access to my car that month, so I had to use a different car or whatever we were doing, like I had to get a ride. And at the end of this 30-day period of time, I wasn't even paying any attention, and I walked to the room and piled in the middle of the living room was the notebook, the keys, and this thing. And, nobody was around to have done it. My kids were not around. They were still
Right.
in school, and my husband was at work. And so unless somebody broke into my house without me knowing about it, and the only thing they did was put that little pile there. So
Highly unlikely.
yeah. And then another time, which was a scary time. This was we were in Oklahoma, and it was one of the cases that we did for the haunted. And we came back, and that was a demonic type of
That was
thing.
terrifying. I watched that.
Yep. So one of our investigators had actually gotten possessed. One of the times we went, because we went there multiple times, but this one night we all went, and we all came back home, and all of us were having dreams of this dark figure with a hat on. And that particular night, my husband said that he woke up hearing growling, like a dog had got in the house.
Oh my God.
And he went to roll over, and he thought he heard my daughter say, "Dad," and he rolled over, and something came into his face. And he was really a non-believer of the paranormal until that moment for
Right.
himself. And when that happened, he knew he wasn't dreaming, and he stayed awake, and he said that he could hear things that sounded like there were things around me, like growling noises.
God.
And like maybe he got up and walked around me, turned the light on to see if I was what was growling.
Right.
And
I'm sure
said
he was happy. I'm sure he was happy to find out that it wasn't you that was growling.
right, right, right. He was definitely he was scared that night.
That's terrifying.
And,
So how'd you get rid of it?
well, it just left. So I think that whatever it was at that house, just kind of like the essence of it followed everybody home, and everybody had some kind of an experience with it.
Golly. So
Yeah. So and it was gone.
See,
and
that's why
it left.
that's why I couldn't be a paranormal investigator, Garrett. I'm too chicken to do.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's the reason I called Cathy, because I wanted that thing out
Yeah.
of my house, whatever the hell it was. But
Yeah. So there's been a couple of times that I've had things in my house that concern me where I cleanse the house, and I do that from time to time anyway.
does it always
But
work though?
specifically, yes, it works. Every time I do it, it works.
Yeah,
So it doesn't necessarily do it permanently, forever, but you just have to re-cleanse,
right. Yeah, because it's like I watch those shows, and it's like the spirit left for 3 months and then came back. After the house was blessed, and you're like, oh my God. So you just got to. But I guess a lot of that too could be if you had a family member or something messing around with a cult and they're dabbling, and they keep inviting that kind of thing in the home. I guess that could be a problem too, huh?
Yeah, well, that, and then there's other reasons, like sometimes a prepubescent girl will cause activity around her, and like poltergeist type of activity.
Right.
And so when I'm talking to somebody over the phone, before I go and investigate, I'm always asking, do you have a daughter? How old is she? Have you ever dabbled in non-traditional religion?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever dabbled with a Ouija board or tried to conjure anything? You'd be surprised at some of the answers that I get from people. What do you do for a living? Because I'm wanting to know, do they work around death?
Right.
And the answers have been fascinating. So I've had people tell me that they were devil worshippers, and they they were conducting seance masses for Satan, and they were trying to sacrifice chickens and different things.
And then do they just get in over their head and call you?
Yeah, or they said that they stopped playing around with it, and now it's been maybe so many years, and now all of a sudden they have this going on, and they didn't identify what's going on with them now, right. That they had conjured anything. They just didn't realize it, But what I can tell you about like human versus demon versus other things, because we've never really had something come from the other side and sit down to be interviewed by everybody, or science can record it and everybody on the planet would know, okay, well, life after death exists. We have proof. Here it is.
Right.
And but I do believe that there are humans that are whatever personality you have when you're alive, you take when you pass away.
Yeah, I totally believe that.
And you can be a bad person, and a bad person can come across almost like it's demonic.
Right. Well, what if you had a Satan worshiper who passed away and he carried those beliefs on with him through his death? Would it be his goal to just act like a demon?
He could wreak havoc, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and I think that sometimes when people pass away, they don't realize that they've passed away, or they've maybe didn't go to the other side, and it's kind of like an in-between world.
Right.
So they're in the in-between, and they haven't crossed, and maybe they realize that they've passed, but over time they don't even realize that they're human anymore, or they were human, or they don't remember everything, and now they've kind of graduated into this mean, ugly thing. Well, they're still human, even though
yes,
it would come across as demonic. But there are different hallmarks of a case if it's demonic, and the thousands of cases that I've been on mostly haven't been demonic at all. And I hate putting labels on things because we really don't really know.
Right.
But of all the cases I've done, maybe 7 cases. I would be comfortable saying maybe 7.
Wow.
Were maybe in the demonic realm. And that one case that I just told you about where that thing followed us home, that was towards demonic, if not fully 100% labeled demonic, because there was a girl that became possessed.
Yeah, she actually started growling, Garrett. I saw this. Yeah, it was.
Oh, so she was growling.
It was terrifying. Yeah, I mean, you can watch it. You can watch the episode. She was growling. There was a different voice coming out of her.
Wow. And she was a part of the
speaking
team?
in a foreign language. We had no idea what she was saying.
That's terrifying.
How did you get rid of that? How did we fix it?
It just kind of left her, didn't it, Cathy? You guys gathered around her and started praying for her, and
it left her. But we this house we brought Carl Johnson from Providence, Rhode Island, came in and he did a cleansing, and we were all there for that. I was anointing door jambs and windows and things as we were going through cleansing, and we got to the outside of this property, and there were film crew there too, and there was a street light on one side of the property, and it was casting a glow across the back of the property onto this the neighbor's garage wall. And there was what looked like somebody walking along the garage in shadow form. So I turned to look to see who was walking, and there was nobody there. And I didn't necessarily think anything about it at that moment, but we were all in the process of coming outside, and Carl had come out, and he's telling them as the final thing to get out of the house, and they're no longer welcome there. And all of a sudden, things started running past me.
Whoa. From
behind me, and going out into the yard and crossing to their detached garage and crossing to their tree. And something jumped in the tree and almost kind of looked like a monkey, kind of, with the way it was crawling up into the tree, and it disappeared into the shadows. And the things that were running across the yard that were disappearing into like the garage. And I knew that wasn't film crew running past us, you know. And the whole time I was standing there, I like had my mouth open looking at this, and there was a part of me that was thinking, am I hallucinating? And, you know, I was not hallucinating, though. I saw it. As soon as it was done, I immediately wanted to know, did anybody else see that, or was I the only person that saw that?
Right. And did other people
several
see it?
people said they saw it. Yeah, other people said that they saw it.
So, Cathy, that just wasn't one entity then. There were several?
Oh, yeah. There was multiple, whatever it was in that house. And that house had used to be a church way back when. And one of the things that we found out about that property, if I remember, somebody had come in and was doing some kind of Satan worship there, you know. Yeah.
People just don't know what they're getting into. I mean, when they do that, and the residual spirits, I guess they can leave behind, right?
Yes, and see that case, the whole family, what they did, it was a daughter and husband and wife, and they had like a pack mentality in the house. So they would all get up and go to the kitchen together, or they would get up and go into the dining room, or get up and go to bed, and they would go into their own beds, but they didn't sleep in the same room. But whatever they did in the house, they did together because they were afraid of everywhere that they went in the house.
Sure.
Yep.
God.
And we didn't really catch a whole lot in that house except for growling. So there was growling.
Yeah.
So, I remember there being a hidden room underneath of the stairs.
Interesting.
And John was messing with something, and he thought, wow. And the owner says, well, you're welcome to knock that down. We've never seen that before. And he literally knocked it down, and there was a room. And I actually have some of the wallpaper from under that house in my house.
Oh my gosh! So do you think some activity was going on in that room?
I don't know if it was that room. I don't know, but it was kind of small. But still, that's another hallmark thing. Sometimes of cases that we've dealt with is locked off areas or locked off rooms.
Right.
One case we went to in Shawnee, there was this family, normal family, and they have a bedroom that's got a padlock on it from the outside that she did not want to ever open because there was activity that happened in the room, but it happened in the rest of the house too. But she thought it was mostly in that room, so she was trying to keep it in the room. So we went out several times, and we actually got video of something bending down that was taller than the door jamb and looking into the room that we were in.
Wow.
It did it 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, we have that somewhere on one of our videos. It was really neat.
So do a lot of these people still live in these houses once you guys are done? Like the family that was like a pact, like that moved around to the kitchen together and everything like that. Did they end up, once you guys were done in that house, did they end up staying there and living there and being fine?
They did. They lived there for a period of time. And from what I understand, the family moved out and another family moved in. And I've been tempted to contact them to ask them if everything's okay. And I thought, no, we're just going to leave it alone. If there's something going on in there, I'm sure they would reach out.
Right.
To somebody. And the history of that house would pop up too, you know?
Yes.
But the family, they could not financially get out of that house. And so they were there for a long time with it. You know, after Carl Johnson came and all that happened, I believe that the activity got to like nothing, but they were still scared anyway. You know,
of course.
Once you have something like that happen, you're like scared anyway.
Well, it changes the whole way you have to live your life.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's so sad because it seems like most cases that I watch where people investigate it, it's the poor family can't afford to move. You know, so they're stuck there with this thing, whatever it is. You know,
right?
That's just horrible.
Right.
So what's your thoughts on, like, okay, if you had a haunted house, should you not let the other owners know that, hey, by the way, before you move in here, Or isn't there a law? There used to be. I know in some states, I think you have to say that the house is haunted or something.
Yes. Some states you have to disclose if somebody died in the house, and some states you don't. I think some states they want you to. I'm not even sure that they have to say haunted, but I do know that if it says not haunted, that there are people happy about that. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Right. I also happen to know from people that are in the paranormal that if you put it out there that your house was haunted, that there are people that would absolutely buy it and be happy to have it.
Well, that's good to know.
That's crazy.
In case I'm trying to sell my house.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
So what's your most interesting case you've been on? It doesn't have to even be Woodlands Paranormal. It could be OKPRI or many of the groups that you've been with. But what's the most interesting or the most terrifying case?
Oh, well, probably that case that I just told you about was scary. That was definitely in the top.
Right.
Villisca, Iowa was also in the top. There was a cemetery in Oklahoma. I won't say the name because everybody will go there.
Okay.
But it's about an hour and a half outside of Oklahoma City. That's a scary place sometimes.
But you'll tell me off the air, right?
Yeah, yes, I can. I can tell you up here. But I remember we were there, and that's a place where you'll see things jumping in between trees, like dark shadows. And there is a headstone that we always go to this particular grave and try to contact the girl and try to contact her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And our equipment always goes crazy over that particular grave with those people. And we go out there because it's one of those places that we know that there's activity,
right?
And it's also like a ceremonial kind of a thing.
I see.
So we're getting ready to leave one night, and there's a gravel driveway coming out and going down to where you leave, and the road's there, and the road is a dirt road. And I'm going slow because it's gravel, and I'm going to hit the dirt road. And as soon as I got to the dirt road and I straightened my car out to leave, it looked like this big giant dog in the road. And I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's a Weimaraner or whatever kind of a dog.
Weimaraner. Yeah, those are cool.
Yes, exactly. It's like that blue-gray big dog. And it was sitting with its back towards the car, and I was going to hit it, so I jammed on my brakes. But I probably was not going more than 25, 20 when I got to the bottom, and I jammed on my brakes, and he jumped up. I thought he was going to like jump off to the side or something, but when he jumped up, there were these gray wings that came out from his back, like he was a bat, and he flew straight up in the air. And everybody that was in the car also saw that too.
Okay,
that was crazy.
That's insane. Did you guys get any film or anything of that?
We did not get film, but everybody in the car saw it but one person because she was looking behind us. And she said that she saw a shadow, but she did not see the dog. But everybody else saw what looked like a dog that turned into a bat. And I got home, and I have a friend named why can I not remember his name now? Like, just literally, I went blank. Anyway, I called my friend who's in cryptozoology, and I asked him about it, and he had just come out with a book about his experiences in cryptozoology, and he wished that I would have contacted him prior to his book coming out, but like this just happened, and I'm sure he had already sent his book off and all that, and we were literally trying to figure out what it was that I saw. Because there has to be some kind of an explanation because it looked physical. It didn't look spiritual. It looked like an actual dog, and then it looked like actual wings, and it went up. So just reminiscent of a gargoyle, you know?
Right. That's what I was thinking when you were describing it. It seemed kind of like a gargoyle.
It's so scary, but
like
so
cool.
Yeah.
So what? I mean, like a shape? Would it be a shapeshifter or? You know,
I don't know. I've talked to several people about that, and we keep coming up with, well, maybe shapeshifters are actually real. Maybe they are, and maybe what you saw was a shapeshifter. Or there are people that believe that it kind of is reminiscent of the Jersey Devil, but I've never heard of Jersey Devil experiences in Oklahoma.
Right.
You know?
God, that's amazing.
But yeah, I called him because he's like one of the big people in cryptozoology, and I thought maybe he had heard of a cluster of sightings of something and he could tell me what it was. And he didn't know what it was either. So
Oh my God.
we thought that maybe sometimes there are protectors of cemeteries, and maybe it was a protector of a cemetery.
It is, because we really, there's so many things out there that we have no clue,
Absolutely.
So it's very possible. Maybe it's guarding the cemetery for real. So,
Ken Gerhardt is the man's name.
What was it?
Ken Gerhardt. He's the one that I called. Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's one of my friends. He's a good guy.
So one question I want to ask you too, this is disturbing to me, is when you capture an EVP of a child. Now, do you think children actually get stuck as earthbound spirits, or is this a malicious spirit posing as a child, or what's your thoughts on that?
I think that both happen. I do think that both happen. So you would think that children wouldn't. I think that if they're too little, I think that they have helpers that help them cross.
Right.
But I think that after a certain age, I think that they have free will to go and follow into the light, or maybe not. And the only reason why I say that is because I've encountered numerous cases where there's been children and it wasn't demonic for sure.
Wow.
And it didn't seem like it was something posing as a child. And like where I live, there's my old downtown area is called Old Town Spring, and it's about, I don't know, 100 or so-ish old buildings. Some of those buildings have been brought in from other places because some of the area had been fires and different things and decay. Some of the buildings were gone, and so they moved other buildings in there. But a lot of the town has, like, if you go into each one of the businesses to talk to the business owner, they'll tell you that there's a child there that plays with them at night. Like one building in particular, he has a little girl spirit, and he has a basket of toys, including a doll, that he keeps right underneath of this counter that she plays with at night while he's gone. And he'll come in and the toys will be around on the floor.
Well, do you think eventually... I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you think eventually, though, that God would send an angel for this child? I mean, because the ones that break my heart are the ones that you hear, "Don't leave me," or something like that. I mean, eventually, obviously, they need help at that point. If they're asking for help or they're asking, "Please don't leave me," you would think, okay, an angel will come down and take them to the light.
Right. Exactly. And that is heartbreaking. But then there are also residual cases and intelligent cases. And a residual case is like a recording. So we don't know all of the special things that happen that create a residual. But it's sort of like recorded music, a recorded CD or something. So something happens like where the voice can actually go onto this thing. Well, there are, like, the whole spirit can also be recorded. But it's not actually something that you can interact with or talk to. That maybe it's a residual of a child, and it's really not there. It's just residual, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that ghost that you see at 3 o'clock in the morning that goes down the stairs and back up the stairs, and it's that same kind of thing, right? So
yes,
I guess,
and it only happens under certain conditions, like maybe there's a storm coming, or the dew point is a certain thing, and we don't know all the things that trigger it, but there's like this magic thing that'll happen that'll make the recording play. And then there's something that happens in life, sometimes that'll record it. So like Anne Boleyn is an example. She runs across the courtyard of her castle, and people report seeing her all the time, and she'll run right by you, and she will never interact with you. It's just a recording.
Exactly.
And
so voices can be the same then, correct? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Voices. So when we go out on cases, we're always looking to see, is this residual or is this intelligent? If it's intelligent, it'll interact with you and it'll answer questions.
It'll answer your question, yeah.
Right.
So what do you think about objects? John Zaffis is the big guy that goes around and takes antiques out of people's houses and he's probably pawning them for big money is what he's doing. But no, yeah, you don't need that diamond ring. Let me take that. No, but so these antiques, they have a lot of times they have spiritual attachments to them, and can those wreak havoc on a home, or do they usually or not?
Yes, they can. And that's another thing that I ask. Have you, at any point in time, brought in an antique piece of furniture? Has somebody given you something that's old? I always want to know. And it doesn't have to be something that's really old.
Right.
But we had a case one time where there was a child that was going through a cemetery, found a glove on the ground, picked it up, took it home, and the kid started having activity, like massive activity around him that was attached to the glove.
Oh, jeez.
Golly.
Yeah.
Like what kind of activity?
If you'll look it up and you'll see there's spirits that can attach themselves to an object, and sometimes they're free to move around wherever they want to move around to. And we don't know what makes them become locked to a spot or to an object, but they do.
You keep reading my mind. Right when I'm getting ready to ask you a question, it's like you just answered it.
Yep.
It's like, quit doing that, Cathy. I'm trying to do an interview
Jeez.
here.
Okay.
No, but that's, yeah. So, I mean, why do you suppose, though, that a spirit would, I mean, let's see, you can go to the light or you can go into that desk. What do you want to do? It's like, I'll go into the desk.
Well, one of the trains of thought is that maybe the person passed away and believe that they're stuck here because of this thing. And maybe it's more mind over matter.
Gotcha.
And it's in their mind that they're attached. And the minute that they can feel like they're free to go, they are.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. There's a video somewhere. I think it's on YouTube right now, but I'm not sure. And I've seen it on TV. It was a warehouse where there's a desk, and like within 25 feet of this desk, there would be activity. Like it would knock over chairs or papers on the desk, or if there's a lamp. And it happened all the time. They got it on footage,
Wow. So
don't know why it's attached to that one spot.
God. So do you think eventually, like if a spirit hasn't crossed, and most of the time isn't it because they're afraid that there'll be judgment day if they go to the light, correct? That's one school of thought I know. So do you think eventually everybody goes to God at one point? I mean, yeah. You'd hate to think that they're stuck there for thousands and thousands of years, Right. And do you think that light's always available to them?
Yes, but I've also had time explained to me in interesting ways. So if time is a man-made thing, then we could be sitting here right now 1,000 years ago having this conversation.
Absolutely.
And so in our mind, it's this date at this time in this location, and really, who knows? I had a priest one time. I was talking about like the in-between or purgatory. And I was talking about, like eons and eons of purgatory. And he's like, well, maybe you look at it and you see it. And he picked up a piece of paper. And, it's 8.5 by 11. And he's holding it like at me where you can see the big piece of paper. And then he turns it to the side where it's very, very thin. And he took a pen and he poked through it. And he said, how do we know that it isn't but a blip that they've gone through it?
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
We don't know about the time versus the blip. We don't know.
That's a great analogy.
That is a great analogy.
Wow. So, Cathy, I want to talk to you about, there was a case I watched on The Haunting that was terrifying to me. Both of those were terrifying, but the Osborne case in Edmond, Oklahoma, was featured on Animal Planet. And like it even affected the weather outside. The wind picked up, Garrett, on this thing. And wind is blowing. Carl's out there, trying to bless this. It was crazy. So can you talk about that a little bit, Cathy?
Yeah, that case was a crazy case. It was. We were in and out of that house quite a bit. And my son actually celebrated his 16th birthday in the house.
Interesting.
How come?
Yeah. Because my son was out with us and part of it. Going out with us at the time, and it was his birthday. He would rather be out with us as a group investigating.
Gotcha.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So we got a cake for him, sat down, sang happy birthday, then went back to investigating.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah, that case was
tell us about
fascinating.
that case a little bit for the audience who hadn't heard about it.
Yeah, well, there was black shadows in that house. You could feel vibrations. People's moods would change. And that's also part of how, like, demons operate. Is they don't necessarily punch a hole into our universe where we can see it, and they grab somebody and pull it through, like the movie Poltergeist.
Right.
You know, it doesn't happen like the movies. So demons can influence us through our thoughts. And they can come in and speak to us, and we're not hearing them as an external thing. We're just having thoughts cross our mind that we think are normal thoughts that we're having, that we're, you know, and we don't realize that maybe the thoughts that we're having are influences coming from outside.
Right.
And if we're inclined to go in certain directions, maybe whatever is in helping us to be inclined to go that way is influencing us to, like, really go down that bad road, or, you know, maybe to be more depressed or whatever, because its goal is to oppress us and to break us and to make us want to hurt people that are around us, and, you know, just wreak havoc in the world. And they do it they start it through our thoughts. So we're in there, and you could just feel like the atmosphere felt weird, and yes, and it affected the weather too. And I remember blessing that property several times, and Carl Johnson was there to do it too. We brought him in one time.
How many times did you guys have to go there to bless that house?
I remember maybe 3 times, but we were in and out of that house quite a bit because we were up there collecting data, trying to help the family. I know that Chris thought it was a wraith,
Mm-hmm.
and a wraith has a very specific kind of, like, attributes. There was red eyes, different things that was happening in there. And I know my son was touched in there too.
Wow.
And that was the first time that he was actually touched. And I remember being happy about that because the paranormal is something that you will have to experience for yourself.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can talk until you're blue in the face. Hey, I had this happen and that happened, and people could just look at you like you're telling stories.
Oh, I know.
And maybe and unless it happens to them, they won't know, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many weird things happen in my life that, you know, and I'm an older guy, so, like, a lot of stuff happened in the 70s, and I'll share this with you. We had a car. We was watching a scary movie, and the setting's just great for this. So we're watching a scary movie. We hear a horn honking on the car. Now, this is before alarms, right? So
Right.
Lights are flashing on and off, and we look outside, and it's our car. So my dad and I go out there, and he goes to open the door. There's no keys in the car. The car starts up. It's going, "Rrr, rrr, rrr, rrr." And when he put his foot down into the floorboard to, like, hit the brake, and I swear on the Bible, fire shot up from the floorboards, and this thing eventually did start, and it crashed into our garage. So, you know, when I tell people that, they're like, yeah, okay. You
Yep.
know?
Wow.
But
Do you still keep in touch with that family at all? Like, are they doing well? Or?
It's been a while since I've been in contact with them, but yeah, I am friends with them, even on Facebook.
Good.
So,
that is good.
Yeah.
What did you think that was, Kathy? Was that a demonic spirit, you think, or was it just nasty little ghosts?
well, I don't know. And that's one of those cases it's really hard to, like, put a label on it, but it would be towards that. If it is that, it's towards it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But the family was being affected in certain ways. But there were things that were not happening in that house that maybe would make me question if maybe it was, and it was just, you know, something else.
Right.
Like Chris thought it was a wraith
Wow.
rather than a demon.
Was Logan with you on that one?
Yes, Logan was with me on that one. Logan was actually with me on the one down south too that I talked to you about, where actually Logan, every case that I just talked to you about, Logan was with me on all of them.
Great. Yeah, I'm interviewing him on the 29th. I just read his book.
Yeah, so you got to ask him about the dog with the wings.
I believe you
100%.
me, I am definitely going to do that. So have you found a problem with COVID? Is it affected your investigations now? Like, because everybody's afraid to get out.
Yeah, it's affected everybody's lives, I think. And I still talk to people on the phone. I'm not going out and investigating as much.
Right.
I've kind of slowed down with residential investigations too, and put my art and photography business where I was trying to focus a little bit more on that. But we still go out, and it's been quite a while now since I've been out. When you think of me going out or being 7 days a week, and then I take it down to 2, it's been quite a while. I bet you it's been at least 9 months since I've been out investigating.
You do too much stuff, girl.
I know.
You got the karaoke. Do you still bake?
Yes, I tore my shoulder when I lived in Oklahoma before I moved back to Houston.
Oh, no.
And so instead of doing the 40, 50 cakes a week I was doing, I just couldn't do that anymore.
Yes.
So that's actually the moment that I went from hobby photography to professional photography.
Right. So, Garrett, let me tell you a little bit about Cathy. She is a photographer.
Right.
She bakes. She's a paranormal investigator. She does all these, and karaoke. Your karaoke now. The bars are back open. So when do you sleep?
I know.
I guess that insomnia is coming in handy right now,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes, and I've had some people say to me, and specifically one person the other day made the comment to me that I can totally take advantage of the insomnia. So if I'm not
100%.
sleeping, I might as well be busy.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Cathy, I had just had one question, and it's kind of interesting because it's circling all the way back around to something we talked about at the beginning, and it's about your near-death experience. Do you think that those experiences are specifically the one that you remember? Do you think that almost opened the door for you to be aware from a young age? Does that
Yes,
question make sense?
I do. Yes, and it does make sense. So yes, I do believe that we all have gifts, but I do think that when I had specifically the near drowning, I think that it opened up a doorway because, and I know I'm 3, but I still remember several things around the age of 3 other than this experience
Right.
I'm telling you. But like that's when everything like really changed for me. And I have some mental illness in my family, not my immediate family, but close enough to immediate family.
Right.
And so I like tried very hard to I didn't want it to be mental illness. So I'm
Right.
trying to
For
like
sure.
explain it away by every means possible. If I'm hearing things, I'm ignoring the voices. I'm not gonna go around and say I'm hearing voices for somebody to say I'm schizophrenic.
Right, for sure.
You know? And so I went through a spell where things got quiet, and I moved around quite a bit because my dad was FAA.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in 11 schools before I graduated, and some of those places that I lived, I had no activity, and some of those places that I lived in, I had a lot of
Right.
activity. And around the age of 16, I was in a 200-year-old house in Ohio, and it was very haunted, and I almost never slept there. I couldn't go to sleep until the sun came up. That was when things
Oh my God.
felt normal to me.
And do you feel like because you were open to, I guess, the paranormal and the unexplainable, these things that are happening around us all the time that a lot of people don't realize because they're not ultra aware? Do you feel like
Right.
that almost attracts? So like if Cathy, somebody that's been aware for the last 13 years, right, since that experience, is living in this house, that it almost opens the door more for these kind of
Yes.
these. Okay.
I do, and I'll tell you that I have other reasons for believing that. So children, I always ask if there's children in the house and what children are seeing, and a lot of people that call are telling me about their child having experiences. So all kids, and before the age of 3, most of them have invisible friends.
Right.
And then there'll be a certain amount of those kids from, say, 3 to 5 that will really be, you can be out of the room, you can hear them arguing with their invisible
Yes.
friend, And some of them don't have invisible friends anymore. And then there'll be some in between 5 and 7 that have them, and it almost feels like you're too old to have an invisible friend. What are you doing? And then after the age of 7, it's around 7 is like the big marker. Most everybody has no invisible friends after that. It's like, and I explain this to clients, that it's like we come from the other side and we bring it with us when we come, and we see things and hear things, and then maybe when somebody is dying, like I had one lady in Skytook, Oklahoma, that called me about her son who had cancer, and it was a very slow growing cancer. So about 3 years prior to him passing away, activity started picking up in the house.
Interesting.
And right before he died, it's like there was a hole punched, or the veil thinned. He's like, his mom would come in and he'd want to know who the guy was she brought in. And she's not seeing any guy. And she would leave the room and go in the other room and cry because she's thinking, oh, the cancer's in his brain,
right,
He's not making, but he could have been seeing a guy.
Right, absolutely.
If it would have been me, I would have asked him, I'd have just gone along with there being a guy there and wanted to know what he was saying and stuff. He was talking to, it sounded like his grandparents and other people. So people were coming in and visiting him before he died. After he passed away, the activity was still there, and that's why she called. Because she didn't call thinking that it had to do with her son, but she called about activity, and I asked her, I wanted her to go through the whole history with me of activity, and she mentioned her son dying, and it literally, in my opinion, there was like the veil thin. So when we are born into the world, the veil is thin. When we leave the world, the veil is thin. And I think that sometimes people have some type of ability that makes them more susceptible to the other side.
Yeah, I do too.
And the way I liken it is almost like the other side. It's not this way. I just want you to mentally picture it this way. It's like dark on the other side, and then there'll be a point of light. And things on the other side, whether it's demons, people, whatever, spirits, they'll be attracted to that light. And that's how I kind of liken it. So, yes, I do feel like I have more activity around me than other people.
Your veil is
and
thinner.
Sometimes people can be with me that don't really experience activity, and they will experience activity being around me.
That's what happened to me whenever I was around Keith.
Oh, really?
Seriously. Yeah.
I want to hear that story.
You're going to.
Yeah, it's going to be on a podcast next week, actually.
So just to end on that, or with that question for me, up until the age of 7, your veil is thin, and you're almost like a sponge for these kind of things. You're able to take them in and to visit with them almost.
Well, and even remembering past lives. I mean, it's just like you hear about those, the little kid who said he was a World War II pilot. Right. And he had all these memories. The family checked it out. Everything was true. And as he got older, those memories started fading from him.
All of a sudden he's having to go to different classes. All of a sudden he's got homework. Life's getting in the way.
Yeah.
Right? Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of my point. Is like, do people start to almost unconsciously move away from it without even knowing? And it takes,
I think so. And I think it's almost like a protective thing,
Right. Okay. That is so interesting.
All right. So the next...
It is. It's like a veil coming over your brain to make you not see it because you need to live your life here.
Right. Yeah.
And not there.
Yeah, because I think it would interfere with, I think, whatever plans we have here to accomplish. It would get in the way. So, okay, so this one I'm almost embarrassed to bring up because it was my house, and my house was pretty boring compared to all those stories.
And not for me, not when I was in here experiencing it.
Your house was not boring to me.
Oh my goodness.
So to our audience, there was another case Cathy was involved with. It was personal to me. And in 2010, Cathy investigated my house. And basically, what's going on, Garrett, is, which I was having, like, my son's guitar would just start playing when we were in the living room. We had a fishing pole that flew off the wall.
I couldn't sleep on the couch.
Yeah, that was another thing. Like, we saw the rocker rocking by itself like around 3 a.m. We'd hear, like, I could swore someone was in the kitchen because I kept hearing a drawer open, and I'd go in there, no one's in there.
Shadow figures on my end.
Yeah, and Garrett saw shadow figures when he was here, when he'd spend the night, when he first started dating my daughter.
And I didn't believe it.
So what, Cathy, what are your memories of my little case?
His little humble abode.
Okay, so specifically, we had a guy that was big time into video recording, and we had so many pieces of equipment break in your house over covering your case.
So bizarre.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember this.
I do.
But okay, yeah, we had 2 DVRs, different days break, like they refused to work after that, and I had my camera stop working.
That's bizarre.
And yes, it was bizarre. So at the time, I had it wasn't really super expensive. It wasn't super cheap. It was like a mid-level camera, and it was like, $500. I got it $500 on sale.
Right.
And
that's
I
expensive.
remember being
Keith,
in your hallway, and
Go ahead.
yeah, I remember being in the hallway, and I remember I'm taking pictures of what looks like a mist, and I'm taking pictures and I'm looking at it and I'm wanting to know if anybody else is getting it. So everybody's pointing their cameras, taking pictures, trying to get this mist. And then I remember in your kitchen, we had a K2, and there was a mist like hovering over the K2, and it moved. And I actually have those pictures on my Facebook as a part of I've got a little haunted gallery on there. And yeah, so the mist, you can see it move from one spot to another spot through the photos. So it wasn't a camera anomaly,
Right.
However, when I came home from your case, my camera would not shut. I could not retract I couldn't retract anything. It was almost like I had taken the camera and had dunked it in, say, sugar water. And it
Wow.
It actually was sticky around certain areas, and I didn't have my camera around anything sticky.
That's crazy.
There was nothing sticky in your house,
No.
and so, right.
No.
I still have the camera.
Do you
I
really?
never threw it away. Yeah, I have
Give
the
it to
camera.
Was it John Zaffa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
So,
you?
and I happen to collect too. I collect things too. So.
Do you keep them in? What's the whole thing with it? You put them under glass and that protects them, or protects the person? Because I notice everything he has is like sealed in glass cases. It seems like.
Well, one of the ideas is if it's sealed in a holy vessel, okay, or it's like blessed, it's supposed to seal it. But I don't know. Like right now in my house, I have so many items because I have people gift me items too because they don't want them anymore.
Well,
Right.
you mentioned the wallpaper too.
Yeah, it's not that I'm asking for these things. People will just call me on the phone randomly and say, "I have this in my house. Could you please come get it?"
Right. So
So one time I'm teaching a cake decorating class in Oklahoma, and I had this couple talking about how they moved into this house, and there was a bowling ball in the house that had a name on it, Earl. And they're all sitting in the living room talking, and this bowling ball came rolling down the hall and went into the living room and rolled over to somebody.
Oh my God.
Stopped, rolled to the next person, stopped and started rolling, and she was like, "Oh, hell no."
Earl.
And she picked up the ball.
Get out of here, Earl.
Right, get out of here, Earl. So she put the ball outside in the yard, and the dog kept messing with the ball. So she decided to bury the ball, and the dog got the ball out anyway. So then
my
she
God.
picked up the ball, and she put it in a 3-pronged tree, just nudged it in there.
Right.
And she was talking about how she would dress it up at Halloween and put like a bow on it. And they'd poke fun at Earl, and she talked about all kinds of activity in her house. And I said to her, "Well, it could be the ball. It could be attached to the ball, or it could be your house." And she said that she didn't know. And I said, "Well, we can come and investigate." And she did not want us to come out and investigate. She just didn't. But she gave me the ball.
I was gonna say,
And,
I hope you have Earl.
Yes, I have Earl. So I got to tell you about how I brought him home. So I got him from this class because she brought him one of the classes that we were in. And I took him home, and I wanted to take him out and bring it in the house, but I thought, no, I need to wait until I have time to bring it in and sit it down and observe it for hours, you know?
Right.
Put marks on the floor or whatever I've got to do to make sure that I'm going to see if this ball's moving. And I just didn't have time that day. So I come in the house, I went about my business. I didn't bring it in the next day, and we had one of these. It was cold at the time, and we had a warm snap. You know, it warmed up, like it felt like in the 80 degrees in the car when I'd open it up. And all of a sudden I had all these red ants all over the inside of my car.
Oh, God.
They were weird looking red ants too, because I've never seen ants like that ever. And I don't know if they were inside the fingers of the ball and they like had been hibernating because it had been cold and they came alive. So I had to bring the ball in. And I didn't really notice any activity around the ball, but I did bring the ball in, and I have had activity in my house, and it could have been related to the ball, but I never saw the ball rolling all over. So that never happened.
God.
I had a face peer through the TV one time when it was on.
Oh, my God.
And I'm looking at the TV, and I'm saying, is that a face in the TV? And I took a picture of it.
Cathy,
And that was...
freaking me out here.
I know. I could talk for hours, believe me.
That's incredible.
That's so cool. But, you know, I wanted to thank, I don't know if I hope I thanked you, but, you know, I got interested in the paranormal hunting or the ghost hunting, whatever you want to call it, and got real careless. You know, I got that spirit box, and I kind of would do these prayers. I'd say them like in 5 seconds so I could just get to talking to spirits. And that's when I caught that I'm evil, and had that experience where I think I told you about this, where I tried to tell the spirit, no, you're not evil, you know, you can cross over to the light just like anybody else. And I close my session, I go and lay in bed, and then I feel, and it was just such a weird feeling, it felt like someone was shaking me from the inside out about 15 minutes later. And this went on like all through the night, and I maybe got 3 hours of sleep. And so when I woke up, I picked up my phone, and where you type a text, it said, I hope you slept well. And
wow.
Yeah. And then it sent a message to Pam. It just said regret. And it came from my number. And I was like, honey, I didn't send that to you. I said,
wow,
you got to talk when we get home. I said, I got kind of careless. I wasn't really doing my prayers like I should have been. But, and then I don't know if you still have that picture, but I was in the bathroom, and this is when I called you. I remember feeling something burning on my leg, and I had a human bite mark on my calf. And I remember sending it.
I have a memory of that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I sent it to you because I was frightened. But thank God, because, you know, when you came out and you blessed my house, you did the smudging, and I think you wrote prayers on the doors, and you put oil crosses on the entranceways. It's gone. It left.
Wow.
And thank God, because it started, you know, it was also scratching my daughter. It was just a mean little spirit, whatever the heck it was. But thank you so much, because you actually made this thing leave.
And Cathy, coming from somebody, and again, I'm Keith's son-in-law, and so at that time I just started dating his daughter, and coming from a point of almost skepticism, but obviously open-minded. I had some experiences with Keith, and we were talking about it recently, and I was telling him, even to this day, since you, and I didn't even know that you had come and had done that, but it almost immediately felt lighter in here, and in the house, it's just, if there's a different feel to it. And Keith had mentioned that in his room, where it was very active, is where and this goes back to something you had said earlier, where the feeling of the room was almost like you walk in and all of a sudden you feel like you've gained 300 pounds.
Well, it felt like you're in a, you know how when you walk in a swimming
heaviness
pool, it's that there's a heaviness in the pool, like when you're walking. It felt like that. And there would be sometimes just wherever the energy was at, like I could walk in the door from work and go, oh God, it feels so depressing and horrible in here.
But
yeah,
now,
I remember that too.
Yeah, it's just such a different atmosphere.
Yeah, so
it's unbelievable.
So thank you, by the way.
I'm glad. You're welcome. You're welcome. And that's literally why we do that, because sometimes people will be scared and it's their grandma, you know, and they don't need to be scared. It's their grandma, you know. And sometimes it's other things, and sometimes we don't know what it is, but we try to get it to go,
Right.
or calm down, or we try to make contact with it somehow. And maybe some of the cases that we worked on, it's been whatever it was, wanted to contact something and wanted to say one specific thing, and now and the activity is gone after that was said,
Right.
And but yeah, that's literally why I've always done it, was to help people. I wanted to help people, and I'm glad that I was able to help you.
Yeah, Garrett, she drove all the way from Texas.
It's unbelievable.
Up here, yeah, to help me out. Because I was, not saying anything bad about the OKPRI, but I just remember when I said, okay, so what do we do now? And they all kind of had this uncomfortable pause. Like, well, we just gather evidence,
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no, I want this thing out of my house.
Yeah, I want to live here, please.
Please. So, but bless her heart, she drove all the way up here and did that. And like I said, since you've done that, I haven't had anything happen in here. But I just got careless. The thing that would break my heart, though, using the spirit box, is the first thing I would hear would be "help me." I heard a whole bunch of "help me." And I had read a book called Helping Ghosts by a guy named Lewis Charles. And so what I would do is I'd start, trying to tell these spirits to cross over. And it was really interesting because sometimes you could actually catch a quick where the spirits were communicating with each other. And I remember crossing this one spirit over, and I heard in the background, "Don't go," and the spirit had left. And so this other spirit had not crossed.
Right.
So it was just totally interesting, and I got into it. But the thing I didn't realize is what you got to be careful about is when you say, "Is there any spirits here?" You just invited everybody, So I had to learn to say, "Spirits of the light, no negative energy here," that kind of thing. But I got to where I put, after that "I'm evil," I just put the thing up, and
Yep.
And I even tried an experiment. I thought, okay, I'm going to turn this on. I'm not going to say anything, and see if anything comes through. And I did that. Nothing came through whatsoever. But soon as I invited, boom, "Help me, help us, help."
Right.
And it was just,
Wow.
It was crazy. So there is something to asking spirits to come into your life. And
Yeah.
you've got to be careful of who you're asking to come into your life. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's where I got careless, and I got the "I'm evil" guy.
And Cathy had to save the day.
Cathy did save the day, superwoman. But
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And the thing, no, it wasn't even menacing when it just said "I'm evil." Just very nonchalant. It wasn't like "I'm evil." It was just nonchalant. I'm evil. Yeah, and he was.
Yeah.
He was mean. So Cathy.
Yeah, and it could have just been like an angry man or something.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. I'll share this with you. Pam's father had committed suicide, and he came through on the spirit box all the time. His name was Pat, and you'd hear Pat. And after communicating with him, basically I found out he was afraid that he was going to be judged if he crossed over to the light. He was scared to death. And I think it's because he committed suicide. Maybe he thought he was going to go to hell or something. But
Right.
I talked and talked and talked to the spirit, for weeks. And he was just very stubborn. He wouldn't go, because of his fear, I think. But but I haven't messed with the spirit box to even know if he's still around. So and I won't.
Yeah. Let's keep that where it's
Oh yeah, I won't do that at all unless I can't sleep and I'm going through night terrors, and then I have run the audio recorder before. But it's hard when you've got like a fan going to run audio too.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you got to have everything off, and I really need the fan to sleep.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it's like even in here in our studio, it's hotter than hell in here, but it's like I have to shut the fans off. Everything comes through the mics, and just got to be super quiet in here. But well, Cathy, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've heard so much about you from Keith, and that was just such a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being on, and we'll see you. Well, maybe we'll talk to you again. Maybe. Would you be willing to come on again with callers?
Yeah.
Cool.
Anytime.
Awesome, because I think we're gonna be setting up a live thing where we actually have people call in. And I think it'd be more interesting to get everybody involved, and I just think it's
I agree.
Yeah, more educational too. Well, Cathy, thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful evening. Okay.
Okay.
Bye, Cathy.
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You can check Cathy Nance out on Facebook under just her name, Cathy Nance, and then she has Cathy Nance Artist, Cathy Nance Studios, Woodlands Paranormal Group, and also on Amazon. I encourage you to buy her book, Haunted Old Town Spring, Haunted America. Very interesting book. Wow, what a great interview, huh?
Yeah, it's very informative.
She's so awesome, and she's so intelligent, and it's just entertaining to listen to her. I think our listeners are really going to love this podcast.
I like it that she's actually been over here and has had that experience with you, too.
Yeah. She helped me out so much, man. I can't even explain how happy I am that she helped get that thing out of my house.
100%.
And things are terrifying. I know, and things are normal now. But yeah,
thank you, Cathy.
Thank you very much, Cathy. So next week, Garrett, it probably won't be out till next Saturday, but we are going to interview Dr. Logan Corelli.
Dr. Corelli.
He also has worked with Cathy. I think they've been on a couple.
That's what she mentioned.
Teams. But they've been on several investigations, several investigations together. But he's very interesting, and I promise the listeners out there, this isn't all going to be about my house and people that investigated my home.
Although it could be.
But he's just an interesting guy. He's got a book out, and we're going to talk about the book a lot. So anyway, we just want to say thanks everybody for listening. This is our first podcast. I appreciate every one of you members. It means a lot to Garrett and I that you signed up, and we're going to be uploading these to all sorts of different places, and I'll let you know where they're at so you can go and punch that like button, and let's just keep getting more members, right, Garrett?
And feel free to contact us.
Yes. We're going to have we have a telephone number, 205-730-6441. That's 205-730-6441. So call it if you got a ghost story or anything, or you just want to comment on the any of the podcasts we do. Give us a call, leave a message.
You can shoot us a message on Facebook, right?
You can shoot us a message on Facebook. But also, I'll tell you that voicemail has 3 minutes and 15 seconds to get your thoughts out or your story.
Make it interesting.
Yeah, you have to do it fast, but we're going to work on that too, where we can get a longer voicemail.
3-minute ghost stories?
Yeah. No, but that's perfect for airtime, right?
Oh, 100%.
So anyway, all right. Well, thanks everybody.
We
appreciate it, and you'll hear from us all through the week, and you'll hear our podcast with the Dr. Corelli on probably Sunday the 1st is what I'm thinking, because if we get enough listeners, we are going to do a live broadcast on Halloween.
Oh, we're going live on Halloween.
Yeah, at either 9:30 or 10. We haven't decided. I think it's how fast Garrett can get his ass over here. So,
I'll be covered in chocolate.
Yeah, he'll be covered in chocolate. All right, well, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.